a playlist original.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your hosts Gaius and Jackson. Our very first anniversary episode of the year, and the first of
Oh,
many,
damn.
many more to come.
Yeah, I didn't make
Probably.
that connection until right now. It sounds weird saying it out loud, but we're 3 weeks into the year, and I guess this is our first and I guess our only of the
January.
month. Yeah.
Yep, only one. We have a lot we're probably going to do this year.
Man.
We've talked about it off and on about how we're going to tackle it, and we have a nice little calendar to keep us focused. That's pretty much all we can do, and then just we're going to do our very best to get to the ones that we really, really want to do, and we know that some are going to be lots on the table for sure.
Yeah. It's probably the most disappointing aspect of that little segment that we do, like just not being able to get them all. But 1999 alone for the 25th anniversaries that we got this year, it's going to be really good to us. So it's going to be hard to knock them out. Yeah. But excited to get into Varsity Blues today. I know you guys. I guess we got Merc too. For those who don't know, we got our good friend of the show, JC, is with us today to talk Varsity Blues. And you guys. You guys have you guys go back with this movie much farther back than I do, right? Let's hear, Merc, from you what you think, like when you first watched this movie, how long it's been since you've seen it last. Just give us what you got.
Pitching tent, sporting wood, the ice school is formed, the march is on, Stiffy, Mr. Mortis, rigor mortises, has set in, Flesh Rocket, Jack's Magic Beanstalk, Tall Tommy, Mushroom on a stick, Mr. Mushroom Head, Purple Head, a Yogurt Slinger, and Pedro. Yeah, that was the quote from the movie for those who've seen it. No, yeah, I love this movie. It is one of my favorite football movies of all time. Do I think is like it just does more when I say that? That's more in terms I just have fun with it. I think there's a lot of other better football movies that I don't have in my top 10, and I just have a very big connection to this movie. I have two older brothers. I've mentioned in reviews. I've mentioned in past podcasts with G. I'm just that. I have Spanish. I'm Dominican. My parents are Spanish. They don't know English. So like my brothers got away with showing me a lot of rated R movies when I was 6-7 years old that I wasn't supposed to be watching. So like I watched this movie whenever it came on pay-per-view, like sometime in '99, and I was just like, I've loved this since. I don't see it every year, but like I try to make it like every other year I watch it.
Right on. Yeah. Well. So is it rated R? Because I'm on IMDb right now and it's saying 14. Yeah, but thinking of it, just having seen it, like there's way too much TNA and swearing for that to be a
just the whipped cream bikini scene gives it a rated R
and all the foul language. So I bring it up because I see it's an MTV production, and I did not expect when I hit play on this movie that once I saw that at the beginning that it would have the language and the scenes and all that stuff in it. So they took that way farther back in the 90s than they do today, that's for sure.
I mean, we'll probably get into it. There's like one specific kind of date rape type line that definitely gives it a rated R.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. There's a few, definitely.
A few.
Yeah. What about you, G? What's your connection with Varsity Blues?
So I was trying to remember.
Let me guess.
You probably saw it opening weekend.
I saw it opening. Shut up, guys. I saw it opening night. Yeah, but what we can remember, we covered this movie on Mark's show last week, along with She's All That, and my friend David was on the episode too, and we went to middle school together, and we hung out through freshman, sophomore year of high school. So we were trying to remember like if we did see this in theaters together. And we couldn't remember if we were together when we saw it, but we know we both did see it, at least for him on opening weekend, and I did on opening day. I don't think I realized it then, but this really kicked off what we call like the class of '99 for like the teen movie movement, because there was a lot of these movies that came out. Like we talked about it with the horror movies. Like there was a big horror movie teen movement, but we only had Can't Hardly Wait in '98, and that didn't really do that well. It didn't do well until it came out on home video, and then later on in life. And then,
when everybody became big.
Right. And then suddenly I think you had all these ones that are coming out in 99. Like they had to be in development around the same time because there's a bunch of them that came out. And Varsity Blues, like, we got a taste of like the teen like movie drama, then we get teen comedies in 99 and not just horror films. And Varsity Blues kind of came out the gate and was successful right away. I think it spent 2 weeks at number 1 when it came out. Damn. And it was, something that a lot of us wanted to see because at the time it starred people that at least some of us were familiar with. Like I was watching Dawson's Creek when the movie came out, and James Van Der Beek playing what seemed like against type. I mean, I don't know watching it now. I guess it was against type, but like compared to Dawson, it's a very different character for him to play. And I think it's introduced a lot of people to. I mean, I think I was familiar with Paul Walker from Pleasantville by the time that Varsity Blues came out. But I know Ali Lauder, this was her first movie. Amy Smart, probably one of her first ones.
Yeah, definitely.
Ron Lesser, who plays Billy Bob, and I mean, probably one of his first.
Was
things.
popular already on TV when that when this
it came out. It came out like in '99, I believe. But it was
later on the year.
Yeah. So I enjoyed it when I first saw it in theaters. I didn't grow up playing football, but I love football movies. Like I love Friday Night Lights. I love Friday Night Lights and Any Given Sunday and
20th anniversary this year.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what it is about them, but I really do. Remember the Titans is another one that I really enjoy as well.
None of those movies you just mentioned I have seen.
Oh my God, Jackson!
Well, we're gonna make you watch Any Given Sunday because that has an anniversary this year.
Is it? Is Denzel? Is that?
Does Remember the Titans? Okay. Any Given Sunday is Pacino and Jamie Foxx and a lot of other people.
Yeah, a lot of people in it. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I rewatched it. I didn't rewatch it again for this. I rewatched it last week for Mark's show, and what we all three of us took from it is it was entertaining for us in the moment because I haven't watched it in so long, and I think that it is a series of a lot of great moments that don't always kind of add up. That there is a good, like, better story in there about the pressure that probably these parents put on kids to play this sport, and when they're like as young as high school, and even going back to that, they're already treating them like they were
like in Pee-wee did,
like they were stars, already. Right. So there is something to be said about that part of the movie too. I love the stuff with Jon Voight because I think he's great in it.
Incredible.
And, and it's kind of nice to have like a little like a vet kind of be in the film like that, where you have all these younger stars, but you have someone that's legitimately like really good for them to play off of each other. And I also found myself when I was watching it by myself, like I was recalling some of the lines already. I hadn't watched the movie in forever, but like I remembered a lot. I remembered a lot of it, and a lot of it came back fondly. But then some of it also came back where it really is a product of its time, and I don't think I loved it watching it. I mean, I still like it; it's entertaining. But there was things I could pick apart more watching it more recently than when I saw it in.
How long do you think you've been between watches?
Probably over like maybe 5 years, probably 5 to 7. Okay. I haven't on like I haven't watched it in like, and there wasn't a reason for me to really pop it in because like a lot of my friends were like, "Oh, let's watch Varsity Blues." Right. It didn't really come up. I was excited to get the 4K that Paramount sent. It looks great in 4K.
Totally.
And I had some fun like Total Recall with it though. I mean, but it definitely is a project of 1999, and you probably will see this a lot in some of the movies around, especially the ones aimed at teenagers. That it really was a different time then, where
American Pie.
You get away with a lot more stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know you kind of hinted at where you fell on this before we got on. So Jackson,
don't break my heart, Jackson.
I'm sorry, Merc. One thing is I'll always be candid. But that being said, didn't hate the watch by any means. I'm definitely limited a little bit in my enjoyment, where I don't have like the nostalgia behind this watch. It was yet another first time watch for me with this movie, and there was positives. Don't get me wrong, but like I found myself more like nitpicking the cliches from this time period. And again, I'm not really well versed in my football movies. I don't have a connection to the sport, so like I couldn't really like get into that. I also like am a little bit biased when it comes to like teen dramas and the melodrama that comes with that age, and seeing like some of the cast and like the characters, like for instance going to like a strip club and getting served, and James Van Der Beek getting like given a 6-pack at the convenience store because he has a game. I'm like, that stuff to me just goes over my head. I don't know what it is.
Oh no, it trust me, in those type of small towns, they'll do that.
As a Canadian, like that's just not my experience with football. So like to me, it's like I remember thinking like in the first like 20 minutes or so when they were winning their first games before Paul Walker's character gets injured, I'm like, this seems like an American propaganda movie. Like how much they champion football. It's like if you were to like have like somebody from like the other side of the world like make a movie about how Americans value football, like this is what I think they would make. which is humorous, not a gripe on the movie by any means.
Watch when you see Friday Night Lights. They hammered even more.
Probably dial it up, but to 10, I'm sure. But considering the production and like the cast, I thought the performances were all great. Definitely John Voight as a standout performance. I really liked Amy Smart's character and what she brought to James Van Der Beek. I hadn't really seen him in anything before. I've never watched Dawson's Creek as much as it's been recommended. Really liked him. Paul Walker's always great to see, especially in a non-Fast and Furious role. And I love him in the Fast movies, but like I just don't see him much outside of
I understand.
Yeah, so I had gripes. Overall, it wasn't a terrible experience, but like just I would have liked to have watched this movie with you fellas, and I feel like I would have enjoyed it more. You know what I mean? But watching it by myself, I'm like, I don't have the connection.
Jackson would have been like, can you let them talk? Because me and G probably would have been saying lines.
Which would have probably upped my interest in it. You know what I mean? Because you like to watch movies with people that love what you're watching. Yeah. Subtitles also would have went a long way, but that's whatever.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that you called it American. It felt like an American propaganda film because when I looked up how the movie did well. It's a $16 million budget. Made $52 million, $54.3 million domestically, but it had like zero worldwide footprint. I don't even think they tried to release it. Like,
I wouldn't be surprised if there was no release.
So this is definitely a very much an American movie.
Yeah,
and just for people that are unfamiliar with it, just a little plot breakdown. The movie is directed by Brian Robin. And opened on January 15, 1999. It follows a small-town high school football team through a tumultuous season in which the players must deal with the pressures of adolescence and their football-obsessed community while having their overbearing coach constantly on their back. In the small, fictional town of West Canaan, Texas, football is the way of life, and losing is not an option. Like we said, the movie was financially successful, but it did receive mixed critical reviews. And they said it's also gone on to become a cult classic. I would like to see that. We were trying to figure out when we talked about it on Mark's show, like what is considered a cult classic, because this movie was a hit when it came out. It made money.
Okay.
And I always thought cult films were maybe something that didn't catch on immediately, but then caught on later. But I looked up a lot of retrospective pieces about the movie. Some people wrote some on its 20th anniversary, and they all labeled it a cult film.
I feel like
I don't think I've ever looked at it that way though.
No, I feel like it's also like obviously the bombing then becoming popular is the ideal thing, but I also feel like it's like when a movie that like got mixed or bad reviews when it came out, and then it just like Babylon as an example. Like I've always felt like Babylon, like in classic. Like I've always felt like in 15, 20 years, there's gonna be people that be like, oh, I always liked that movie. Like, no, you didn't. I remember you hated that movie when it came out, but that's a movie that I feel like is gonna like in 15 to 20 years is gonna be like. There'll probably be people that say is Chazelle's masterpiece. I mean, it's always gonna be La La Land to me, but like I like definitely the box office bomb is like the main popular label. Like when like no Rocky Horror and other examples. But like I feel like sometimes also like when it's like a movie that got bad reviews when it first came out, and then like when you get like reappraised decades later, it's like it's actually a movie that was ahead of it. Like I'm like I don't know if any of you guys ever heard of Heaven's Gate, the guy that directed The Deer Hunter, massive bomb, like it made like $3 million on a $44 million budget, but that movie got nominated for a lot of Razzies, and there's a lot of people now like, it's like one of the last great movies from the new Hollywood movement.
Yeah. Which adds a lot of charm to a movie. I like your both of you guys your thoughts on like the cult classic. I definitely think that the initial bombing is got to be crucial to that. Other than if not, then it's just a classic, right? That's what the whole cult aspect of it is. So it's interesting. I don't think it's necessarily a term that like everybody looks at exactly the same. But you got a good point there, Gaius.
Yeah, and I think the fact that the movie was R-rated and did as well as it did also spoke a lot to like studios being like, okay, we can make these R-rated and like they'll go see them. And it's interesting too because this is in January. This is I think what people might call a modest hit because $54 million is, especially compared to its budget, is good, but it's not like American Pie was a big hit when it came out and that summer. But it kind of starts with this kind of like, all right, well, this kind of proves that this kind of works. And then you got Cruel Intentions in March, which is also R-rated, did well, not as well as Varsity Blues domestically, but worldwide did well too. And I think this was like the test of in early January to say like, all right, will these movies actually work for people? And then you kind of got, I know we're not talking about that movie, but you kind of prove it 2 weeks later. She's All That opens 2 weeks after this, and it opens at number 1. It becomes like an even bigger hit than Varsity Blues. And I think they kind of proved that then that they're like, all right, these movies are kind of, for now, they're here to stay and people want to see them. And oddly enough, Paul Walker is in both of these movies, Varsity Blues and She's All That, playing complete opposites. In Varsity Blues, he's like a total nice guy, and in She's All That, he is a
douche. Was She's All That the one that dethroned Varsity Blues? Because you said this had a 2-week hold, right?
It was number 1 for 2 weeks.
Oh, shit! Look at Paul Walker.
That boy Paul.
Yeah, so he had a good 1-2 punch. I was wondering if you would feel this way about this, Jackson, because like when I first saw the movie, I wasn't aware of, because our high school football team, it was important in Manhattan Beach, California, but not like this. So I didn't know that this was a huge thing until we met someone from Texas, like maybe 3 years after I saw the movie the first time, and we watched the movie with him, and we were kind of like, "How accurate is this?" And he was like, "Oh, this is painfully accurate." How they treat
that is so crazy to me. Like
how they treat football there.
If there's any state in the United States that's like that, like Texas. I mean, Texas football is like, like there's other states like, but like in Texas, like it's literally a way of life. Like the way I see it with Varsity Blues, I feel like they were because I don't know if you know it, Jackson, but like Friday Night Lights is based on a book that was already out by the time they made this, and I've always felt like this was trying to be like a more MTV, like mixing like comedy into it, the version of the Varsity of the Friday Night Light book. Because like Texas, like because when you see Friday Night Lights, like the boosters, like the people that like run, like that give player money, stuff like that, like that's more of a big factor in that movie. That's where this is just more about the team romance. Like I said, it's like an MTV. It's basically an MTV's style version of Friday Night Lights and like of a hardcore football movie.
But yeah, if you're not familiar with how diehard they are about football, like that would probably take you out of it a bit on a
well, I'm aware
level, right?
Of the influence football has in particular like Southern United States culture. Don't get me wrong, I was not oblivious to that at all, but like having not been immersed in it, like it just seems so fanatical looking at it, especially as a Canadian. It's and it's like, again, that's nothing against the movie itself, more like just looking at like the culture of it in the States is like kind of comical. But one thing though that did take me out, that's not again the movie's fault, but some of those Texas accents, man. Oh boy, I was honestly kind of.
I don't want your life.
Exactly, and like I wouldn't really know who's doing a good job or a bad job because like they all sound the same to me.
But you could tell like some actors, you could tell that they're trying really hard. As where like somebody like Scott Caan, like it just flows naturally off him. But like Vanderbeek as Moxon, like it feels forced.
So. Yeah. Okay.
So I feel like Scott Caan, because he's funny in it. I feel like that was a lot. I feel like that wasn't a lot of acting. I feel like that is a part of his personality, at least then. Like deep down.
I mean, he's freaking James Caan's son. Like
yeah, that character.
I was wondering if that name was from him.
He looks just like him.
When he's walking through that party and he's singing that song, like she broke my heart, so I broke her jaw.
Oh my god!
Which isn't bad. It's bad. I mean, I laughed, but I was like, yeah, that probably wouldn't go over well today.
Ooh, you won't get that today.
Our stealing the cop car and having like 2 naked girls in the back seat while you're also naked probably wouldn't fly well today,
right?
Either, but also the part where he's like looking at his pants while they're about to practice, and he's like, "Now what is that?" Because he like thinks he like got caught something. Like, yeah, I mean, I thought the character was funny, but I probably wouldn't go over too well.
And then this line is like, "Listen, you give him a Percocet, 2 Vicodins, and a couple beers, and a panties drop."
That's
what I'm talking about. That's like a straight up like that's a date rape line. Come on, it's like especially after Bill Cosby. Like
is that really something that a high schooler would have access to? That part I found myself shaking my head for multiple
especially in those type of towns, especially like if you're like a star player. If you're like a star player, like you could get a lot of stuff. Like G's from Cali, like he knows like
I went to Maricosta. Little background for those listening. I went to Maricosta High School. It's in Manhattan Beach, California. It's in a very ritzy part of the South Bay.
Exactly.
Was it easy for kids in high school to get some of that stuff? Yes. Either they were getting it from like older people that they knew, like maybe brothers who they related to, or they had rich parents and they were just taking it from them. And so it was easy. Not necessarily in our group, but I do. I mean, it was just kind of like thing that you knew about and you really speak on it too much. And now that was like now that's the South Bay. So imagine like greater Los Angeles and Hollywood. It probably was even easier to get that kind of stuff. And I also kind of speak on that too, like the whole we talked about the whole strip club scene too, and Mark brought up they're drinking in the bar, but I was like, well, I think it would be able for them to easily get alcohol at a bar because they're the stars of their like high school football team. That's how they treat them. They treat them like adults,
celebrities.
Yeah,
as long as you're winning in those type of towns, trust me, you're literally a god.
I used to wonder the same thing about Gossip Girl when they would be drinking, like when they were in high school, but they're drinking at like hotels that like their family owned. So like they're like, all right, well, that explains the whole like they can still drink in high school thing. But yeah, I mean, it's not too far fetched.
Okay,
unfortunately, not at all. But and then as far as the accents, I think Ron Lester, who plays Billy Bob, does it good. I'm a Texas accent. Sounds fine to me.
Is he from Texas?
He might be from Texas for all I know. And Paul Walker's is fine. I mean, I didn't think it was bad. I actually think Paul Walker. I brought this up before, and I didn't really realize it when he was alive, unfortunately. But Paul Walker is a lot better than I think I gave him credit for when he was actually, alive making movies. And it wasn't so
running scared.
Because when I watch him and stuff now, he feels so alive on screen that it's hard to believe that he's not with us.
Yeah.
And he's very likable in this. I thought he handled himself pretty well. It is a very cliched character. Star quarterback gets hurt, and and he definitely looks the part. I mean, I love when he's at that pep rally for the school, and he's just like, I was lying in bed last night, and all the girls are like, oh, swooning over him.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's convincing as the kind of star player.
He is just needlessly likable. Like you don't have to even try to enjoy his character to like him in anything he's in. He just has such a charisma. But it's funny though, you mentioning how likable his character is. I had thought I must have been mixing up what you said about him in an earlier conversation. It must have been about his role in She's All That, where you said he was kind of like the asshole. And so I went into this thinking, oh, he must be like the cocky quarterback who thinks shit doesn't stink or whatever. And then everything he does and says is so humble and nice, and I love him. And I'm like, what is Gaius on about? This can't be the role. So anyway, I clued in pretty quick though. I was like, no, I'm mixed up.
Gaius is really sensitive, dude.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I was listening to a podcast where they covered it too, and they were talking about how they want, because Paul Walker is so good in this movie. They're like, oh, I wanted him to be it's Mox maybe, and the co-host was like, Paul Walker's not a backup to nobody. You just wouldn't believe Paul Walker, as good as looking as he was and as charismatic, that he was a backup quarterback. You look at him, no, that's a starting quarterback.
Yeah.
So it was there was. I mean, I get why the other host wanted to be I feel he's a better actor than Vanderbeek. He should have been the lead. I'm like, yeah, but you're not gonna believe that a guy that looks like that is the backup quarterback.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that. And also, to James Vanderbeek's credit, he holds his own in some pretty intense scenes with John Voight, I thought.
It's just that one scene that we're gonna get to later.
That one scene, but overall, you could tell it was probably a joy for him being that young and then working with someone like John Voight, and they probably all took that to heart in a good way. And you can tell that they're not. No one really overshadows John Voight, but they all they don't seem like amateurs next to him either, which I thought was.
There's a lot of young talent for sure. He's definitely this.
He was the most well-known actor.
No other adult role I felt like was even anything close to.
Yeah.
I didn't even recognize a single one beyond him. He was in a league of his own for sure, but he definitely sells it. He is an asshole. His character.
Yeah, that's what I've always said. It's you hate him so much, and I've always said when my wife when she hates characters She hates Barry Keoghan because he's so good at playing despicable, Killing of the Sacred Deer or the Green Knight. But I've always told her, I'm like, if you hate a character so much, that's a testament to how good the actor is in the role. So the fact that people hate John Voight so much in the movie, when you see the movie, it's just because he's freaking killing it. He makes you. He's a freaking asshole. He cares more about winning than about his players' health. That's the. I mean, I guess some coaches will do anything to win, but to me, it's just that's just a bit far. Nah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, he has some funny lines though, and he's like, "You're the damn dumbest smart person I know." Like,
I felt bad for Billy Bob.
I thought Billy Bob was like earlier when he gets that clear like concussion early, and then he starts like passing out in places. I'm like, he's gonna die. I thought that where the movie was gonna go is like he was gonna tragically die before the season was over, and they're gonna rally behind him and like win state for him or something or districts. And,
I mean that shows how cliche that sports movies are though, because that would happen in many
that
of
would have been too cliche, so I can respect it not going there.
But this is this is where I say like some of the moments don't add up to a lot, because they were going to do that, even though it's an R-rated teen movie, it was still an MTV production. And like I remember thinking when I first saw that he might die. I remember when the shotgun blast you hear, and I was like, whoa, did they really have that guy kill himself?
That's what I thought too, man.
And I was like, Jesus. But like watching it as an adult, not saying that I would want Billy Bob to kill himself, but the movie plays it safe in a lot of ways where it wasn't gonna go there. I don't think. And whether or not you think that is good or a detriment to like, hey, it holds itself back because it also is selling itself to a specific teen audience. Like it could have gone to some powerful places if they had gone that route, but it would have been probably too dark.
I feel like any other studio besides MTV that might have done it. Like if it would have been like I mean, don't worry, Jackson. Nothing like that happens in Friday Night Lights, but like in Friday Night Lights, because when you see it, like that's a very much darker, grittier version of Texas.
Yeah.
Like in that movie, a player killing himself would have felt more realistic than a MTV production with a lot of WB teen movie types. I mean, that's really what it is. Like it's like the MTV with a bunch of WB actors.
Yeah, right. They picked from the crowd of like they're like all these TV shows are popping up on the WB. They're like, we got to put them in movies, and that's kind of what
like Dawson premiered in September.
So that 97 to like the early 2000s, like 2001 maybe. Oh, it might have been ended earlier than that, but like it was like a clear like 2-3 year period where like these kids were like king. No matter what they were in,
it was just like
it was very successful. Like
any UPN or WB show, like though you would see like freaking disturbing behaviors. You had Katie Holmes in a bunch of these movies in 98, 99, and 2000. You had Vanderbeek in a lot of shows. You had Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yeah, Michelle Gellar. Michelle Williams did one. She did H2O. So like she was in that in that little kind of clique.
That's right.
Around then, like they were like it was our brat pack for like the kids that grew up.
No, legit. Like it was like in those periods, like especially since he was in high school, he'll know like you literally these actors and they played a big part in why these movies are successful. Like I guarantee you, a lot of girls that love Dawson's Creek would play a big part into why Varsity Blues almost tripled his budget.
Big time.
Like I'm pretty sure like even Simply Irresistible was a big hit, right? G. The Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Okay, yeah.
And that was all her. Yeah. That was based off of her name from Buffy. Like that was very common. It's like now, like when you see all the Euphoria actors, like they're getting a lot of like Sydney Sweeney, Jacob Elordi. Like you see a lot of those actors are getting into a lot of roles. That's the equivalent to what was happening in 98, 99. Like the Euphoria cast is just getting cast and everything.
History repeating itself, I think, especially with Euphoria. That's a great example.
Yeah, and I think with Teen Stars, then it was, even back then there was like this, at least for older actors, like being on TV was kind of seen as like a downgrade compared to movies.
Yeah.
But with the younger generation, they were being seen on TV by this demo that was like underserved for so long, where they didn't have like a lot of stuff that was specifically made for them. So all of these people were seeing these people on TV every week, and now they get to see them in what looks like a really cool movie like that weekend. So there was a huge correlation between how successful their shows were and how big their movies were that came out around that time. And some studios really banked on that, and then some banked on it too late. But like the ones that did, were like, hey, like they realized, some of them that did right away were like, yeah, this is working now. Like, and it's so crazy that they wouldn't think it worked because they watched it work in the 80s. Like they watched it work with like the John Hughes stuff and like how successful those younger actors were for for quite a bit. And it was the same with our little generation of TV stars that wanted to be movie stars. And this was like that time where they would be on a TV show and you could tell they want to break out in the movie, so they would do like 1 or 2 movies there in their hiatus and like hope they got big enough so they could like leave their TV show. Like it was always a big deal for actors then to be like, oh, I want to do movies, I don't want to do this show anymore.
Like a perfect example. It's like basically like right after Saved by the Bell ends, Elizabeth Berkley. Oh, I'm not gonna play a nice girl. I'm gonna play a freaking showgirl and Showgirls.
Showgirls, yeah.
It's like that. It's like, and then you had like Party of Five. They had Jennifer Love Hewitt and then Neve Campbell. And then you have them do. I know what you did last summer and Scream, like horror movies. As where I mean, I'm pretty sure you never saw Party of Five, Jackson, but it was it had hard hitting stuff, but it was like a family friendly show. Like like. It had a lot of family. I mean, granted, like that show got dark, especially with the Scott Wolf storyline. Gene knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But it's like it was like like there was a lot of actors that were like, hey, I'm in a family friendly show, but I wanted like the movies they did. Like most of them they'll do a teen comedy, but it was a lot of like horror movies or psychological stuff or like very edgy thing. Like, but I'm a cheerleader.
Right.
Yeah. And that's why James Vanderbeek dyed his hair brown and gained a little weight to play a football
Is he blonde
player.
in Dawson's Creek?
He's blonde. He's during
the first seasons for sure.
Yeah, he's so blonde, and like it's the complete opposite. I mean, who this character is, like you can tell it was like a really calculated move to be like, all right, I want to prove myself. I can do stuff that's not so wholesome and like sweet,
right?
Because Dawson's Creek, even though it got a lot of attention for how the teens talk and them talking about sex and all that stuff, it was relatively tame compared to what comes after it. It wasn't nearly as like dirty as like people were trying to make it out to be when it first started. It was the one that had like a heart. It was the one that was like, oh, like that's the sweet one that like they don't really do it. They had basic relationship problems where it's like, oh, like I'm in love with my best friend, but like he doesn't know it, and like, oh, now I think I'm in love with her too, and like, oh, but he likes this other girl. It's like it was all like really sweet, normal stuff that didn't really go too far out of like the norm. So when they get a chance to do stuff like Varsity Blues, like I think you take it and you run with it to kind of show that you can do other stuff, and I think that's what he was trying to do when he. And I think he mostly succeeded though. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
Seems like this movie was transitional for a lot of the cast.
Yeah, I think it was, and to realize that how big this was for Paul Walker, like within 2 weeks he had the number one movie for 3 weeks in a row. Like he had this for 2 weeks, and She's All That right after that. So like,
and then the next year he was a leading man in The Skulls. Like it was She's All That was the last time like he had a supporting role. After that, it was pretty much The Skulls, then Fast and the Furious, and Joyride. Boom, that's it.
Yeah.
Speaking of him, actually, I'm just seeing here in the IMDb trivia that he actually broke his leg during filming. I'm wondering if it was that stunt where he's supposed to injure his leg and the.
Oh, okay, so it hurts. Oh,
yeah.
I mean, that's literally the only time that he gets physical.
Against the action, yeah.
Unless he broke it like offset or something, but it just says during filming.
That's the word. I've heard stories about that when it's like I think it was like Russell Wilson. He injured himself while he was filming a cameo in the Entourage movie. I'm like, what? I'm like, that gotta be the worst feeling.
Yeah.
And the guy who played Wendell Brown, this is his only acting credit, but he was the black guy in the movie.
Legit running back.
He actually was a football player. This is his only movie role.
Credit.
But he actually had a real life football career.
That's why his like he looks like the only like he looked like the most legit player because he was the
legit player. Yeah.
Because it was like Scott Caan is like 5'4". He's the star wide receiver. Give me I mean, I love the character, but it's like. As somebody that played football, a 5'4" or 5'5" person is not going to be the star wide receiver. I'm sorry, no.
And that's how you can tell it was written for like teens of that time who would have no idea. Like, oh, whatever. I do want to bring up the girls for a second. Amy Smart first, because like Jackson, you mentioned that you liked her. What I took from this again after watching it for the first time in a long time, and I've always felt this way every time I watch it. And I think it's the writing more than her as an actress. I think she's fine. But she's absolutely fucking insufferable. Like she's so like all she does is complain and it's like she has like so I get what the point is. Like she's supposed to be like his moral like compass. Like, oh, like you're losing yourself and all this. Like don't let this get to your head. But since we don't really have a lot of scenes of them together where they are like couplely getting along, like a lot of them where it's like, oh, okay, I kind of see what their vibe is.
Negative. Yes.
I was like, she's just fucking negative, and every time they have a scene together. So it's like when I was watching for this, I was like, man, just dump her. I don't know.
I agree.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that felt like, because I thought G was gonna defend her. I'm like, in my review when I reviewed it for the page, I'm like, she's a wet blanket. Like I loved her the very next year Road Trip, and I love her Rat Race, but in this freaking movie, she's a wet blanket. Like I would. Ali Lauder scenes all the way, but hers is just like, especially in the freaking when he's at her job and she's like, come on, man, it's so annoying.
I was like, that was first of all, that was really bitchy and just like a really like snarky thing to do.
Yeah. Like the guy's trying to make it up to you. He literally came to you. Like, trust me, the fact that he's the star quarterback, now he could have been an asshole and just not even gone over there. The fact that he was still trying.
Well, though he did lie to her face like right before that when he said that he never saw Darcy in her whipped cream bikini.
I mean, you're gonna say that, Jackson. Obviously, every guy lies in that moment.
But like, he put himself in that compromising position.
Think about high school, Jackson, and what you would have said.
Like, no, what are you talking about? I ain't seen none of that.
To me, the scene, but she knows he's lying, right? So like, it kind of makes sense that she would be pissed at him. But to me, the scene that felt like the least warranted for her being like bitchy is right after he gets that random like on the spot interview after his first game. Where
oh my god,
she's like clearly like,
soundbite is so awful though.
But
so bad.
She's like not happy for him at all, and like can't appreciate this role that he's now in, and he's just like overwhelmed with like excitement.
Exactly.
And she's like brings him down instantly. That scene, I was like, okay, like this girl needs to figure it out.
Yeah, my train of thought about watching it, I was like, all right. And I think it is the writing because like what do they have in common? Because all I've seen her do is nag and not really encourage him. And like all I could think is just like, dude, like I'm trying to vent. Can you just listen instead of being like fucking negative Nancy? And then like every time he like, hey, I have this. I know it's probably annoying for her because he's having like this like existential like crisis about what he should do with like his life, and she's like, oh, it's just so easy. But it's easy for her because she's not living it. So like, I don't know. If you're gonna be a girlfriend, be a supportive one. You can offer your opinion and like all that, but it always seemed negative. And then all of a sudden, by the end of the movie, she's cheering him on at the last game. I was like, I thought you didn't like all this. Like,
true inconsistency for sure in her character. I do think that she has some warranted confliction with her brother being the one that had to get injured for James Vanderbeek's. What the hell is his name?
Mox.
John.
Just say Mox.
Mox. So I get that, like, she's like probably looking at it like he's only here because my brother, the star, got hurt. So maybe that has something. But again, the movie doesn't really put us in her brain to think that very much. So who knows? But her acting, I thought was fine. Though more so, I think you're right.
No, it's the way the characters ran.
I think it's written that way, and then compared to, I mean, it's not like Ali Lauder has a lot to do either as Darcy, but
she has the most iconic scene.
At least you see so far. So we talked about this on the episode, and actually, it's not whipped cream, it's shaving cream because whipped cream would fall off, I guess.
Makes sense.
Oh yeah, like it's supposed to be, but like they had to use what G said because like it kept falling off or something like that. Like that's like I remember I read that in the trivia.
And we were trying to figure out because Ali Lauder has done stuff since this. Like she was in the first two Foundation Nation movies. She was on Heroes.
This is her debut. Yeah.
This is her debut. But I was like, is she most remembered for this, or is she most remembered for other stuff? And I know a lot of people that still reference this when they talk about her, which may. Wait, I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean, it is. It's an iconic teen moment, though.
Yeah, like I feel like Final Destination is like Final Destination is like the biggest thing she's done. Yeah, the first one was 2000, but I feel like this is like the most iconic thing she's ever done, like for better or worse. Like, I'm sorry, it is what it is. But like Heroes. If Heroes had stuck to the landing, that would have been the greatest thing she ever did. But we all know. I mean, me and G definitely know how it went downhill after season one.
We all know why. I know.
But have you seen Legally Blonde, Jackson?
I was about to ask you guys how big her role was in the movie because I haven't.
Yeah, she's the case that Reese Witherspoon's character is trying to defend.
Okay.
And then she was a Jay Silent Bob.
The first few Resident Evils, she's in.
Oh yeah, I forgot she's in those.
Yeah.
I forgot she's in the Resident Evil movies.
Yeah, other than I don't recognize her from much.
It's like
she had a decent career.
I don't mind her being remembered for this. I don't know how she feels about it. But
I forgot she fought Beyonce and Obsessed. I forgot she's the woman in that.
She was in that.
She fought Beyonce.
She's in 2 episodes of Dawson's Creek too. I'm seeing.
I mean, everybody was in that show, Jackson. Everybody.
Everyone was.
I gotta see that shit.
I
mean, it's a fun one.
Oh wow,
the first two seasons are pretty good, and after that it gets Season 3 is pretty good too because they put Joey and Pacey together. It's all great.
Plus,
Like,
Jackson would relate to him, like
you relate to Dawson.
Dawson
Oh,
is
as a
pretty
film
much.
guy.
He's a film guy. Spielberg's his favorite director. He has Jaws and ET posters. Yeah, he's like a film nerd. Like he goes to college for film and everything like that.
I
So
had
it's
a couple friends that watch the show that say that I reminded them of Dawson, which is funny.
yeah, like people like us, we relate to Dawson.
I used to get that comparison too, but if you actually watch the show, he's kind of insufferable sometimes too. So everyone
maybe they're trying to tell me something.
You know what? Everyone wants to be Pacey. No one wants to be Dawson.
For sure.
I also didn't realize during the whipped cream bikini scene when I was younger, they're playing an Aaliyah song called "If Your Girl Only Knew," it's a banger.
So fucking good.
But then I'm watching it as an adult because like he's at this girl's house and his girlfriend doesn't know about it. And I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. Play that song.
You see, I know the song, and until you said it out loud like that, it didn't even really hit me. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense why they use that song.
And honestly,
the soundtrack is pretty sick.
Yeah, I used to have the soundtrack. Actually, it was one of the many from back in that I bought.
Back when they were actually good.
I wish I had my CDs still, man.
I still got a few.
I got a handful of CDs, but film soundtrack so it would have been cool to have.
But Mox definitely has the audience reactions when he sees her for the first time when she comes out like that. I remember when we saw that in theaters. No one really expected it. It was like, oh shit.
Yeah,
it's like you were what? You said 14, right?
Yeah, somewhere.
In theaters, I don't know. I mean, I couldn't even, especially in California. Shit.
I know. But then it's like capped off. It's this really fun, sexy scene, right? And then it's capped off with like him turning her down, and then her explaining why she's now flirting with him because like she feels like now that Lance isn't playing anymore, she was going to go off with him when he went to college, and now she feels like she's going to be stuck there. And I was trying to I understood the intention behind the scene. It was weird to kind of have it happen right after that.
Literally right after the injury, not even a week later or something.
And it also wasn't like it's not the most well acted scene either. It's just kind of like it is what it is. But like I understood like what they were trying to say, that even those girls that latch on to those guys, like they are also like viewing that as a way to like get out of like their kind of small town trap.
She even has a line, right, where she's like, I can't remember verbatim what she says, but she's like, I was like wanting a better life, like by following him out of the state.
Yeah,
because
I thought it really telling. Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, say it's like the cliche stuff. Like me and G definitely noticed in those teen shows where it's like, but like the mom, like One Tree Hill example is like. It's like Chad McElmurray's mom's like, she used to date the father of Nate. Like, when she was young, it was like, she stayed in town. She dated the star player. Like, that's just such a common trope in like teen shows where it's like, like your mom was the homecoming queen, and your dad was like the star quarterback. Like, for those players, the people that don't leave those towns, that's all they really have. Like, that's why Moggs had that line, like playing for West Canaan was, was your dream. Like he had bigger dreams of getting out of there.
I thought a really telling line too. It was actually pretty powerful, just in the moment, because just how selfish the parents are. When Lance gets hurt and his dad's in the stands and he says, "Don't do this to me," it's his son who's like, critically like injured, and he's the one that's worried about they're all trying to relive their glory days, or like either they were once really good and they're not, or
their son was better than that.
Yeah, I mean, you also see in that scene where they're doing that whole thing where they're throwing the football at the can, and they're like having them go back and forth, which actually it plays out pretty funny too. But no,
it's funny because it's like they're trying to determine who the best quarterback in the state is by who could throw a football 10 feet. Like, it's not even like they're trying to go mad deep. It's like, come on, like this doesn't prove nothing.
Later in the movie, there's another tiny little detail that definitely it made me appreciate that scene even more when Mox nails this 40-yard pass and it's received, and then his dad celebrates and he touches his nose. He's like, holy shit, my son can throw the ball.
No. Remember, he does that is when he hits the mascot when he sees that his son has when he sees that he's like, hold up, he was able to. He has accurate arm.
Yeah,
it's like I've always laughed at that because it's like he did it on purpose.
Yeah. You're right. It was the mascot. That's right. That was hilarious.
Sorry, I've seen it too many times, Jackson.
Which was also another funny moment in the movie too, when he just drills the mascot for making fun of them.
Yeah. I also love the cliche of like Mox. I guess we're supposed to believe that Moxon is like smarter than like the average football player because he's reading Slaughterhouse-Five while he's supposed to be looking at plays for like as like not being the star quarterback. He's doing that, and then like when John Boyd finds the book, he just tosses it as if it's like such a horrible thing to like read and be smart.
You're supposed to care about, but it's funny because like the guy that could throw a football sitting down, but he's the backup quarterback. I'm like, come on, no. Somebody has an arm like that, you make him the star.
Yeah, but I mean, we talked a little bit about John Boyd, but I mean, I guess, do you think is he over the top or he just plays it just right, like that, the right amount of like?
Oh no, he's having it up, but it works.
Yeah, I guess I agree. He has scenes where I think he's perfectly like he's not going over the top at all. He's riding the line perfectly, and then he has moments though where he does kind of go over the top. But it didn't take me out of his performance. I thought he did pretty solid.
It fits like the rage that his like, especially in the locker room fight versus with Mox is like that is over the top, but you understand why he's pissed off like that. Like that guy just wants to win, which is also funny because it's like they're making him this. He has a statue and all that stuff, but he's been coaching for like 22 years and you've only won 2 state championships. Like, I'm sorry, in a football town, that is not gonna slide. Like, no, my bad. It's 22 state, whatever in 30 years, but only 2 like World Series or whatever you want to call it, like Super Bowls. But in a Texas town, that's not gonna slide. Like, that's 30 years and only 2 chips. Like, nah.
Oh, what was I going to say about John? Oh, I would have liked to seen a little bit more, like, what made him, like, what inspired this rage within him.
Kind of what I take it. That's what I took from this last rewatch was, like, I wish we knew more about him. Yeah. I mean, I guess you could read in between the lines and figure it out, but it would have been nice to kind of see, like, what got him to that point.
This animosity he has for Mox and his dad, too. I don't know where that comes from. Sorry.
I mean, he says it. It was like his father was. He says, like, your father was a bad player, but he was like basically
at least he listened.
Yeah, he was like his father was like basically like a punk, like probably like third stringer that he just like feared him and he could depend on him to do whatever he says. Like that's where Mox is like rebels against him.
Right. He has that moment where he's grabbing like the face mask of Mox's helmet and he's like pulling him back and forth, like yelling at him. And when I was watching this, I was like, damn, like I can actually see this now that someone has told me several times that like, yeah, that feels very accurate. I just couldn't imagine like being in that position in high school, having someone like yell at me like that. Right. That's clearly crossing the line. Like you're getting physical with me and like, but for them, I guess it's just so fucking normal. Like it was just, but that like blew my mind. And then I don't know how accurate the whole, how he's like basically giving them the shot so they can continue playing. Like he's giving them like injecting them with like, I guess painkillers and all like that so they can keep playing. I don't know how accurate that is for high school. I know that's definitely a professional football thing. Maybe college too, but I don't know about high school.
I feel like it happens, but I don't think like it would have been like, especially when they mention how Lance should have been playing and all that. I feel like in real life they would have tried to investigate that more as to where he says, "Oh, he never told me anything." Like trust me, a player would know if he had that much tear and it. So like I feel like the coaches would do that, but I think they would have a school district would have investigated that more in depth.
I do love when he says that when he's like he never told me anything and then looked at Box gives him like you a damn lie, dude. And then he's like looking at Box like, oh yeah, I know that he knows. He's like, why don't you go on home and get some shut eye? Like tells him like to get out.
Yeah, that's when he sees that like this guy has no heart. Like all he really cares. That's when you really see like I mean it's really early, but that's when you see like he really does not care anything about his players. All he cares about is winning. Like the fact that he could lie like that. He could have mentioned like, oh, he's mentioned how it was hurting a bit. He could even say something like that. He didn't have to say, oh, like it was like he told me it was like bugging him like crazy. He could have just like he mentioned a little bit of pain, but nothing too serious. But he just straight up lied.
Straight up lied. I do love the conversation at the end between all of them though. I thought that was really well done. when they all kind of like confront him. And I do love his like act of desperation because he knows he's losing them. He's like, all right, Tweeter, you take the steps. He's like telling everybody. He's trying to get anybody to like be a quarterback at that point. And they're like, no, man, we're not listening to you anymore. And then like when he leaves, he just claps. He's like saying, let's go. And like, it's so unhinged. I was like, dude, this guy has like lost his mind. Like completely lost his mind. But he's lost control over these kids that he's had control over forever.
On that note too, like it literally, if they go from that scene in the locker room where coach walks out and then they'll be in and amongst the montage of the guys going back on the field coachless, we do cut to a couple scenes, or like a scene, I guess, split of the coach in his office, sort of like reflecting on it. And I found that was kind of like a detracted a little bit for me. Like at that point I was like done with him. It's like he's out of the picture. They're doing it for themselves out there. I didn't really need to see a shot of him like reflecting on his legacy or anything. You know what I mean? I was like, at that point, like I don't need any of that. So that kind of, I don't know. There was a couple edits like that kind of mess with the pace a little bit. I know we started with that quote there, Merc, but honestly, I felt that sex education scene really messed with the tone, or not the tone, the pacing.
Oh, come on. That scene is gold.
I was like, whoa.
You know what's funny? It's like, it's a funny moment. I get what you're saying. It's a funny moment because it is funny. But it really does. You can tell that is put in there to appeal to like the lowest common denominator of the teen audience. Like, oh yeah, like that's kind of like, it doesn't really add much to. I mean, other than to get like fucking Dawson to say like a bunch of words for the male erection. That's the only reason why. That's the only reason why that's there. And I kind of agree with you. I think it does affect the tone a little bit. I mean, I still laugh, but it definitely feels like out of place.
I remember it's like, it was 99. It was like they had to make some of the like teen sex comedy stuff in there.
I guess I'm not partial to that sort of subgenre maybe. So I was like, okay, I could do without that. And then a worse offender though by far was the strip club that same teacher being a stripper. I was like, what the fuck
for teacher?
Well, I mean, at least
7-year-old Gene was very happy.
They're like, how's the teacher afford a car on that salary?
I love that they actually give us a scene for that.
I forgot about that car scene. That's right.
But no, it is another typical like teen movie moment. Yeah. But I do love that once she sees that they're there, she's mortified for a second, and then she's just like, fuck it.
And she's like, fuck it. They love it.
And then
the song, it's like perfect.
Yeah, the song is perfect.
Yeah, that was unrealistic. I'm sorry. Like, even though she's a stripper, a teacher would not be okay with drinking with her students.
But man, that moment of them coming out the strip club, I don't know if you've ever come out of a strip club that early in the morning.
Yeah.
And that was ridiculous too.
My bachelor party.
But that is exactly how it feels when you walk out that early and the sun's out and you're like, what the hell have we been doing all night? That's fairly accurate. But yeah, I agree. I agree with the sex ed stuff. I actually think the stripper stuff is a little bit more forgivable than that, because it was like they at least referenced it at one point, and
come on, as we're guys here, like I feel like we've all had a teacher that we thought looked good.
Oh, don't get me wrong.
Be realistic. That's like a male dream.
That was like such a radical side of the spectrum. So that kind of took me out. Like, or whatever.
Well, you know what else it is too, because you posted this scene, Merc, the sex education scene. Like, it's funny, but it also it doesn't feel like it's like handled with any kind of realism when she's trying to get them to be comfortable, like being like penis, vagina.
Yeah.
Like no,
that would not happen.
That wouldn't happen at all. And like okay, but maybe in Texas, I don't know, not in LA. For sure.
Definitely not in New York either. It was the most boring teacher. If I had a teacher that was that enthusiastic like her teaching sex ed, I would have paid more attention.
I also kind of thought that speaking of pacing, I didn't realize until I watched it for this. Like, it felt them winning that last game and all that felt kind of rushed. Like the last 5 or so minutes felt like it kind of was like, they win the game, and then there's like the kind of narration of like where everyone kind of went afterward. They were like, Tweeter drinks beer because Tweeter drinks beer, and it was just kind of like, it's over.
I have such nitpicks with that.
Yeah, well, it felt very rushed, and like I was like, whoa, most of the movie takes a little bit of time, at least setting these things up, and you would think like this last crucial game that they're playing, where now they're like playing on their own terms and they don't have the coach there anymore, that they would kind of play that a little longer and a little better, but it felt really rushed. But I don't know if you guys felt the same way watching the last few minutes of the movie.
Yeah, Rush, I can see. Like, I honestly, I knew exactly how the movie was going to end.
Of course.
20 minutes before. So I was like, okay, let's just get to the credits because I knew what was going on.
That's not a good sign.
No, but so the nitpick I have is like, remember they won the game, but Mox says that he never played football again. So it's like,
again, yeah.
So it's like, what happened? You guys won. I mean, the only thing I can think of is the fact that they were like, you guys have no coach. Like, you guys got to forfeit. Because that's also unrealistic. Like, they would not have let Paul Walker be the coach. They would be like, where's the single adult?
They got assistants that they would have gone to state. I think it's an oversight.
My buddy.
Yeah, I feel like that's the only thing they had to maybe forfeit because they didn't have a real coach. Because, I mean, don't get me wrong. When I was younger, it's like whatever. But as an adult, I'm like, that. I caught that more this time, this rewatch. I'm like, hold up, you won the freaking thing. You went to state. Like, how did you never played again? Like I said, the only thing I can think of is the fact that they were just like, yeah, Paul Walker can be your coach for the playoffs. I'm sorry.
That's true. Like my buddy sent me a message when he saw that we were doing this episode, and he was just like, "I love that movie, but that movie is totally moving." When they're like, "Oh yeah, Paul Walker's the coach now for that game," like, okay.
As a team, you're like, whatever.
I guess they're like one of those other coaches on that Texas or other teams would have been like, "No, that's not fair. They need to forfeit."
That's the only thing I can think that happened.
But you accept it that it's like it's a movie, whatever.
Exactly.
And it's a good, and that was one of the things that I actually believed in that narration, that Lance probably would have gone on to coach, and I was like, all right, I could see that being the case. He can't play anymore, and like he probably lived in football.
Stayed there.
Whip about it too when he hurts himself. He's probably gonna end up like coaching JV and never leaving his town. Yeah.
I mean, remember when you're thinking you're about to. Because imagine, it's like Darcy had it in her mind, like, oh, he's gonna go to the NFL. We're gonna probably live like in a mansion and stuff like that. For you to get put down to earth, be like, I'm gonna have to stay the same place that I've lived my whole life. It's like that gotta hurt.
That probably did hurt.
I mean, but Moggs didn't want to play football, so even if you went with him, he was gonna break your heart when he went to Brown instead of a big. I mean, that's an Ivy League school, but he ain't go to no like big state or nothing.
Where is Brown?
Oh, I think it's in the East Coast. I think.
East Coast. I'll look at that right now.
Yeah, because I've had friends and family members that have mentioned how they applied to it. So, and I couldn't see people that are close to me trying to go anywhere.
It's in Rhode Island.
Yeah, that's like about 2 or 3 hours from New York. I figured because I'm like
a private Ivy League.
I would not have guessed Rhode Island at all.
No, I knew it was definitely East Coast because I think besides like one of my friends that he moved to California a few years ago because he wanted to be an actor. Most of my friends were like just really stay local. Like they moved to Philly, they moved to Boston, but like nobody really close moves far. So the fact that I've had friends who wanted to go to Brown, I'm like, it has to be somewhere in the East Coast close to us.
And Brown is used frequently in a lot of like TV shows and movies where kids want to just go. I was like, all right, I didn't know anyone. I mean, it's a good school, I imagine, but every TV show and movie around that time, it was just like, I want to go. I applied to Brown.
Hold on, what's the school that Summer went to in the OC? Wasn't it somewhere in the East Coast?
Did she want to go to Brown too, or was it?
Yeah, I think that's why I'm bringing it up. I think that's the school she mentioned.
I think that is what she missing because they suddenly made Summer smart on the OC out of nowhere. I mean, whatever, it's fine. I'm sure she was smart the whole time, but they never played that up. They never played that up till season 3. Then she was like, "Oh, like Summer is actually a good student." They waited 3 years in to do that. But yeah, the teen movie cliches. And there are a lot. There are a lot of like football cliches in this movie. A ton of teen cliches in the movie. Do you just embrace those cliches and be like, yeah, this is kind of goes with the territory, or you're just kind of like, they didn't feel tired for me then, like in '99, because I didn't see a lot of this back then, but now we've been inundated with like a ton of it.
Yeah.
You said, you knew how the movie was going to end 20 minutes before it ended. You're like
that sort of bothers me. It makes no sense because like you understand this is a product of its time. It's going to be saddled with these cliches, but for whatever reason, maybe because I'm looking at it in 2024 and I haven't seen it before, that kind of like takes me out of it a little bit. But it's not the movie's fault. It came out when it came out. But yeah, cliches is something hard to put aside.
Yeah, it's like
not on board.
it's like with people that watch like Rocky now, because you're used to so many movies that copy the Rocky formula, like Southpaw, The Fighter, where it's like the boxer that gets the comeback at the end. I mean, Rocky created the formula, so it's like I've seen people where it's like, oh, I like Creed more. I'm like, hey, I understand because Rocky is more slower paced, but it's like, I mean, granted, my favorite Rocky is Rocky 4 because it's so much fun, but I mean, like Rocky, the original Rocky is the best film in the franchise, but it's like with like Jackson, like me and G have the nostalgia for it, where we've seen it for the last 25 years. That's where you're seeing it now, and it's like you've seen a lot of football movies and just sports movies in general that just copy that formula. Like, there's no way that they were gonna make it where it's like they rebel as the coach and then they lose the final game. I mean, they lose in the second half. Like, no, that's setting up the comeback.
Right.
Well, that's an interesting thing because I think we've brought up before on other episodes where we talked about movies from this era. Like we talked about it with Wild Things, which you enjoyed. You thought it was good.
Definitely.
We talked about it. We talked about it with Can't Hardly Wait, which you were like that. You thought that was fine too. Like you didn't dislike it. But then there were other ones that some of the horror ones that were a product of its time. Like I was like wondering for you, like what kind of can make them, or what makes it for you, like not seem like it's kind of stuck in the period that it came out and actually speaks for today's audience too.
Thinking about it now, I really think it's like the conventions of the story, like thinking of the examples that you just mentioned, like Wild Things is like pretty original, like in terms, like you had movies with similar themes come out, but like that story doesn't seem, I can't think of many examples of
those twists and turns,
like how that went exactly. Whereas like I can name like 10 Varsity Blues, like with their own different like identities, but still following the same formula.
I get it.
I think it's just, like what comes down to the storyline, and even in those movies like Can't Hardly Wait and Wild Things, you have maybe cliche character moments and stuff, but I think it really what separates it is like what's happening in the story. What are these characters doing that makes it different from like a more formulaic movie like Varsity Blues or I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, for instance. I had never really.
I recently heard that pod. Like Jack, I felt bad for Jackson. I'm like, damn, G, you made him watch that. The first one, I love the first one, but that second one, I can't watch it.
He would like the first one. I think he would enjoy the first one.
I think I've seen the first one.
Oh yeah, that's right. You said in the pod you haven't seen it or you like vividly remember it. Like the first one is fun, but the second one is, and then the Will Son. I was like,
oh my god, I forgot about that. Jack Black with dreads, man. Like, that was.
Is part two the one that ends with when she gets like grabbed in the mirror, or is that part one?
No. Part one is when he jumps through the mirror. The second one's when he grabs her from underneath the bed.
Oh yeah, that scene is so bad.
You know what? I still know you did last summer is why we didn't do She's All That, because I'm not gonna always punish Jackson with doing.
Well, hey,
don't like that.
Don't stop yourself from reviewing movies you want to do. Like, I don't have to join if you think I'm gonna really hate my life doing it. I'm happy to like let you see it and have a guest on. Don't hold yourself back on account of me. It's
no, but it's fun getting your perspective in these movies because
we can.
But it's like She's All That. It just like no, but it's sorry.
It's not fun having a gush fest all the time where it's like, oh, we loved it so much. I mean, it's nice to have like someone being like, yeah, I didn't really enjoy that. But we also have a lot of movies to choose from this year, so it's I wasn't going to.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, I appreciate it.
And what I realized too after rewatching She's All That is that I wouldn't even put it in the top tier teen movies from that era, and I probably would have a long time ago. But like watching it now,
I remember when He's All That came out, like you were like, oh no, I love that movie. I mean, I know you still love it, but I was like, I know you were like really fighting. You were like really like protective of it. I mean, you still haven't seen He's All That because of it.
Well, yeah, I'm like, no, stayed away from it. But yeah, I get I get that though, because we've talked about it before on here, and I think it is. I mean, of course, it's easy for us to watch movies that are not from an era in which we were born or like when we were like younger, and we can still identify with them and like them. But I think you're right; it does have to do a lot with the story. There has to be something that, if there is a cliche moment, the story itself needs to feel somewhat original to not feel like it's frozen in time. I think.
Exactly.
And like Wild Things doesn't really feel like a high school movie at all to me, even though
No,
they are
not
in
at
high
all.
school.
That's right.
I love that movie.
But yeah, and like I feel that way about Cruel Intentions a bit, where it's like it's a little different from like the teen movies that we were getting around this period too. And then there were some that come out later that are smarter. 10 Things I Hate About You is super smart. And it's not just
Election is a really smart teen movie.
Election is another fun teen one that you probably will enjoy too, because that came out in '99 as well. But yeah, there are definitely some that really they shower in their cliches and they enjoy it.
Exactly. And there are cliche riddled movies that I love. Don't get me wrong, but not all of them. Yeah.
And then, like we said, the movie was financially successful. It opened at number one with $17.5 million in its opening weekend. It stayed number one for 2 weeks in a row. Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 43% Rotten score on Rotten
It's
Tomatoes.
not that bad for that type of movie, honestly.
I don't think, it's not that bad for that, but it's. I guess it implies more mixed reviews than anything. Their consensus says that this is a predictable football movie that lacks intensity. It got a B+ cinema score on opening day from.
Nice.
Moviegoers that saw on opening day. Roger Ebert said scenes work, but they don't pile up and build momentum.
I
Other
agree
reviews,
with that.
Real Views Online says takes a worthwhile detour or two, and ultimately finds its way back to the well-worn track of its genre, implying that it's cliched. A lot of the reviews are very similar to that they believe that it was cliche, but they all give credit to the cast, who they thought the ensemble was pretty good, and they give especially good notices to Jon Voight for his performance in the movie, which probably elevated it more above a level than most teen movies that came out around that time.
He helps it out a lot.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of older people that probably, Jon Voight's in this, I'll give it a chance, as opposed to just would have been a bunch of young WB actors that we're not familiar with.
Yeah, that pulled in whatever older audience went to go see it during the theatrical run. And then there was, in January of 2002, MTV announced that they were going to co-produce a television series based on the film. And they were going to they cast Sean Dyer as Stick and Charlie Talbert as Billy Bob. But the project was scrapped soon after for lack of interest. I thought this was interesting too. A lot of these movies we talked about on their anniversaries, 25th and all that. Like I saw your posts and I saw a few on Twitter, X, whatever. But there weren't a ton of them for the 25th anniversary of Varsity Blues, and I was kind of surprised. And we kind of mentioned that on Mark's show, and he was saying, I wonder if, compared to all the ones that came out during this year, if it's the least, not liked, but like, popular one of the ones that came out in 1999.
Because I feel that's more like it's more like a boys movie, as where She's All That has some of the guys and the girls. American Pie has the guys. 10 Things I Hate About You definitely has the guys and girls, because I've never been ashamed to say I love 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah, I love that movie too.
Yeah, it's like Varsity Blues. I feel like it's more like it's more like a guy stuff. The girls are one dimensional. There's like She's All That, American Pie. 10 Things I Hate About You, Election, they have strong female characters, so like I feel that plays a part in it.
That was something that I got mentioned too about the girls. They felt that they were, when we were talking about on Mark's show, that they felt that they were one dimensional, and that how that was really a product of that era, that they were just more eye candy and not so much. Well, I guess Amy Smart's not meant to be eye candy. Like she's supposed to have more depth than that, but they writ them like I know I made fun of her for being a nagger, but they wrote her in a very one note kind of way where she came off that way, and they wrote Darcy in one type of way where she's like, the sexy one, and that's kind of like the cliche that they go with that. So I guess they are one dimensional, and like the female roles probably could have been fleshed out a little bit more to not, especially because all the dudes are fleshed out completely for the most part. They all have.
Even
we are
Bob.
spending the movie with them, I guess, though, so I see why it's written that way, but
yeah. Any other closing thoughts you want to throw out there?
You forgot the most important one, G.
Oh yeah,
What's that?
throw it in.
Billy Bob literally played himself in Not Another Teen Movie.
Oh, that's true. Yes, he did.
He really parodied his character.
He played himself in Not Another Teen Movie. He did. That was actually kind of funny.
I love that. I love that they did that.
And Ron Lester actually was on a TV show called Popular on the WB, like right after this movie came out, and that was Ryan Murphy's first series.
First show.
Cool.
And it's actually pretty fun. It's only 2 seasons, but it was a pretty fun kind of cult TV show. And then he was in another two movie, like you said, making fun of his character in Varsity Blues. And then he had that gastric bypass surgery and lost a ton of weight.
I was wondering what happened. I saw his picture.
But he ended up passing away, and I think in 2016.
Yeah. Oh no.
R.I.P. Yeah, he had it's like a heart issue, I think it was.
Yeah, it's crazy that it's him. Paul Walker also no longer with us from this movie as well.
They could never make a sequel to this movie because of that. I feel.
And not so fun fact, but the guy that plays Mox's little brother, he was a child actor.
Oh, sorry.
No, Joe Pickler playing his younger brother, the one that's doing all the stuff where he's on the cross and all that.
Yeah,
the cult leader.
That was a weird subplot.
That could get taken out for.
Yeah, that didn't do nothing for me.
But in real life, he went missing at the age of 18 under mysterious circumstances on January 5th, 2006, near his hometown of Washington. As of 2024, his whereabouts remain unknown. They have not found him since then.
Shit.
Whoa.
But he was a child actor, and he was getting back into acting when he went missing. They found his car, I guess, a day after he disappeared. The person
that went dark.
His friend talked to him at 4 a.m, and they found a note in the car saying that he wanted to be a better brother and all that stuff. But the cops kind of thought he might have committed suicide, but his family was like, no. That note seemed like someone that wanted to improve his life and be better. But yeah, it was always a big mystery as to what happened to him on that
Never
day.
knew that.
Still is. Wow, I know. I never heard that either. That's pretty insane.
Yeah, we forgot to mention Jesse Plemons in this movie as Paul Walker's character, Lance's brother.
Yeah.
And I think this was his first movie. Yeah, that's why I got stuck when you said little brother.
And he goes on to do Friday Night Lights, which is kind of cool.
That's like a
TV talk. Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I kind of forgot that too, actually.
We went this whole podcast and we literally forgot about it. Especially Jackson, since he's always trying to get a G for never watching Breaking Bad. I thought that's something you would have definitely. Now that I think about it, I'm surprised you didn't bring him up in this.
I made a promise.
Did he notice it was him?
I made a promise to start watching it this year. I will.
Yes, he did.
Game of Thrones, you're forgiven, but Breaking Bad, get to it. Because Breaking Bad was great this whole run. Game of Thrones didn't end so well, so if you don't,
I still say watch Thrones whenever you.
Yeah, but if we gotta get G to watch one this year, Breaking Bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
I made a promise on air to watch Breaking Bad and Peaky Blinders. And Peaky Blinders, which I heard is you said was a short.
You said you would trade a show for him, right? What show you're gonna watch, Jackson?
I don't know.
He hasn't pitched one to me yet. I don't think, but I will honor that for sure. But once he gets,
I'm afraid to pitch a favorite one, and then he's like, "That show's trash." I'm like, "Well,
that's not how it works."
Don't give him 90s TV shows like Dawson Creek.
I know. I can't give him Buffy. I can't give him Buffy. And
Buffy. I could see him like.
I would probably like Buffy.
Yeah, because it's like the vampire horror stuff.
2 years to probably watch it.
Yeah, it's like 7 seasons and 20 episodes.
Exactly.
No, yeah.
Just take.
I'll figure out.
Me.
Did you ever watch?
You gotta give him like a HBO show that those are 12 episodes, or like a Netflix show that he just hasn't seen.
All right, yeah, I'll try.
Because those are like 10 to 12 episodes.
Give it to me by like mid-February. Just come up with something by mid-February, and we'll be fine.
Wait, have you ever seen The Sopranos?
I have not. That's on my watch list with my buddy Cam. We've been wanting.
That's a good one, G.
That's gonna be something that I'd.
It's about the same.
Yeah. I think he would take that on his own. Yeah.
I'd like it to be something that I wouldn't normally go out of my way to see. Well, I guess that's not really the case with Breaking Bad. I'm sure you would have you would have watched it.
I think I would eventually watch it.
So never mind. I take that back.
No, you're not the first person to give me like.
Oh, I'm sure I'm not.
Especially you, since you're on top of these type of stuff. When you said it on air, I was so shocked.
I got mad looks from people there like, we're supposed to trust with you, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. It's so shocking to me.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had told me you never saw Better Call Saul, I understand, because there was a lot of people that wrote it off when it first aired because, I mean, no offense, I think Better Call Saul, I think is one of the few spinoffs that actually work. For every Better Call Saul, you have a Joey.
We
all tried, G. We all tried.
Last year, and I gotta say, I think I liked it just as much as I liked Breaking Bad.
No, yeah, it's pretty good
in some avenues for sure. But geez, man, I guess you're kind of signing up for both shows. If you watch Breaking Bad, there's no way you can't watch Saul. So But yeah.
All right, we're at that moment of truth now. We have to rate, give the movie a score.
I'm gonna go last.
Yeah, I was going like Jackson, you're last.
If I get a 3 out of 5 from Jackson, I'll call that a win.
All right.
I mean, you don't gotta say that at the end, but
okay, we're doing the letterbox scoring, right? So out of 5 stars. All right,
Yeah.
Mark, you go first.
3.5. Like, it just nostalgia helps a lot with it. Like, I understand the criticism when it comes to the writing and everything like that, but like I said, like I'm always honest when it comes to these type of stuff. Like, it's really probably more like a 3 out of 5 type movie, but I go 3 out of 5 because it's something I've been watching since I was 7 years old for the last 25 years. So I just enjoy it. Like, but I'll never tell somebody like, oh my god, this is on the level of Rudy or Friday Night Lights. But it's just it's a fun football movie. Like, the acting and the football scenes are the biggest things you could take. The biggest reasons why the movie works. Everything else, I understand the criticism for.
All right, I'm gonna give it the same score. I was actually gonna review it on Letterboxd before, but I was like, I'll wait till after we do the episode.
I waited too, so you wouldn't see it before the episode.
Like, Jackson's always good to get it on air.
I gave it 3.5. I think, like I said, I wish there was it has a lot of moments that I wish it kind of built on that I thought were really good for even the movie at that time to explore. But I think a lot of it is nostalgia. That's why I enjoyed it, even how I did for this rewatch too. Like, I gave it a higher score than She's All That, which that rewatch.
I mean, it is a better movie, T. Let's be real.
But it wasn't. But nostalgia could have made me enjoy that a bit more too. And I think I was like, oh, that movie is even more egregious with some of the late '90s stuff it got away with. I'm like, oh. But yeah,
she has glasses, so she has to be ugly. I've always hated that trope.
It's honestly the opposite.
I know.
In real life, I mean.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It was fun, and I'm glad I have it on 4K. I mean, I'm glad I have a good copy of it now because I had it on DVD for so long. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Still love the soundtrack. Soundtrack's fun. It's very much
fun.
It's very much a product of 1999. But I think it's a fun little time capsule movie. I would consider it. It's not. I don't know if it's in my top 10 of these kind of movies that came out in that era, but it's it's better than most. It's a good start for a lot of us that were like, oh, that if you were to go back to that year and be like, oh, these are all the teen movies that came out in '99, it's not a bad start for sure.
No.
And it captures the era better than a lot of them. Like, because Cruel Intentions is more of a sophisticated stuff because it's basically like. I mean, it is a remake of Dangerous Liaisons, but for teens. So that I feel like that's why that movie has a more mature vibe because of the source material.
Yeah. All right, Jackson.
Moment of truth.
Right, so with not having nostalgia goggles in my arsenal, don't take my score as a score that This is not something that
he's going under 3. He's going under 3.
I love when you preface it with oh, don't take this the wrong way, guys.
Just don't go lower than I still know what you did last summer.
You'll know. No, it's not quite that low.
All right, I'm good.
This isn't a movie that I would not ever consider rewatching. I would revisit this in the next few years, see how my score holds up. And this is not going to be a score that I've ranked movies this low that I would absolutely never watch again. But that's not the case for Varsity Blues. But I'm going to give it 2 out of 5 as per Letterboxd ranking.
Oh damn! I was going to say 2.5.
I know, but. Yeah, there's some positive takeaways, but overall, it just didn't connect with me. I'd be interested to see what I think of this movie in another 8-10 years. I'd watch it.
This is why it's good to have you here, because if it didn't, it would have been me and G just geeking all over this. Even if you would have been criticized,
a bad thing. I feel guilty, but.
No, but that's trust me. It makes good content when it's not just straight up all positive.
Yeah.
Trust me, as somebody who listens to a lot of podcasts, having somebody that has a different perspective, and especially the first time watch is what makes, I love you guys. So the first time when you being a first time watcher for a lot of these, that's what makes it such a great thing to listen to. Because it's you're getting obviously the somebody that's younger than us. You're also getting the first time watch.
Yeah.
It's like when we watch older movies from the 60s, 70s, I love a lot of those old 60 movies, but they're very slow. They move slow compared to the fast-paced movies we're used to now.
Right.
I do get the thought sometimes where when we go over these movies, if there's a train of thought in your brain that's like, why were they writing so hard for these when they came out? like what was going on in like 1999? But then I was thinking too, like I think we mentioned on like a one episode, I forgot which one it was around one of these movies, but your generation doesn't really have a lot of these kinds of movies, like not a lot where there's a bunch of them that came out and like
no,
they were just
right.
It was a very much a different time from when there were a lot of these movies that were made for us, and that kind of doesn't really exist much anymore.
Not so many of these like niche genres and subgenres. If anything, my generation has like I think it's going to be characterized by like the rise of superhero movies in a few years. So we'll look back at that. But no, I would much rather have like been around for this era when they were coming out, and I'm sure I would have liked a lot of them more. But
because it's like nowadays, because it's like look at wrong, we all love streaming here. We like, so we watch, we all have these services, but a lot of the teen movies and mid-budget movies are just straight up Netflix movies nowadays. Like Netflix has a bunch of these high school movies, like with To All the Boys and all those things. But like back when me and G were like, it was like you'll get these in theaters, because like to me, I think like really good sex comedy that has came out in the last like 10 years is probably just Booksmart. But you have like a lot of sophisticated teen movies where it's like Lady Bird, The Perks of Being a Wallflower, Love Simon.
Like Edge of 17 is another good one too.
Yeah, like that's more of what like for Jackson's generation, like the ones that were in high school in the mid 2010s, is more like those type of like, because it's like, I mean I love American Pie, but when you watch that now, it's like I mean, like for better or worse, there's a lot of like more positivity the way you portray like sex and teen movies and just like teenage characters nowadays. So like you get a lot of smarter, like they're not as fun anymore, but you get a lot of well written, like smarter characterized like teen movies nowadays. That's pretty much like Jackson's, like me and G were like the height of the teen sex comedies, as Jackson's more of the, you could believe a teen movie getting nominated for like original screenplay or something.
Yeah, that's true.
True that. I'm also just not partial to teen dramas, comedies, just that genre or something that's never resonated with me. And that's, I think, a product of its time. It was more popular during this era when Varsity Blues came out. You're going to be influenced by, what's popular when you're around, and I totally understand that, but never opposed to checking something out for the first time. I always say I'll try anything once.
1999 is going to be a fun one. Have you ever seen American Pie?
Yeah, but it's been a long time.
Okay. No, but you've seen it though, because I'm like, Fresh Eyes would have been a funny reaction to that one, because talk about I mean, I love it. Like I said, talk about a movie that has dated pretty bad, like all the naughty stuff. Like, bro, if you're like, come on, that's like, I mean, you'll go to jail for that nowadays. Like you're recording a freaking girl, like basically, like butt naked and everything like that, and you're spreading it all over that will get you arrested.
Oh, big time.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, I will be remiss not to mention that in Mean Girls, it is stated that Varsity Blues is Regina George's favorite movie. So I just had to throw.
I rewatched that last week. I didn't even really catch that on.
Throw that in there. But yeah. All right, wrap us on up, Jackson.
Yeah, without further ado, then I guess that concludes episode 146 of Back to the Blockbuster. Thank you very much, guys, for listening to us jabber about Varsity Blues today in our first of the year when it comes to our anniversary episodes. Turned 25 on, I believe it was January 15th.
Yeah.
Yes, 15th. So, yes, it's been awesome. First time watch. Glad, as always, to have our boy JC Merc with the movies on with us to chat this one. You guys can find him at Instagram and anywhere. But actually, Merc, I'll give you the chance to plug where they can find you. I know your Instagram handle off the top of my head.
Yeah, Merc with the movies on Instagram. I review indies, foreign films, big movies. I love to just put people on. And I'm currently running a year-long project where it's 80 Films Friday. So I'm trying to just really review a lot of obscure. There's gonna be a lot of 80s horrors for anybody that's on the page. But I try to like just get a lot of obscure movies that I could put people on and I love getting feedback when it comes to that. And then my letterbox is G Cole, which is my actual real page. I should switch it to Merc with the movies. I haven't done it.
Yeah, get on that. We'll tag that there wherever we can put that on the episode in the description too. And I was a big fan of 90s Film Fridays, the series that you ran last year. There was a lot of great posts, so looking forward to some more of your posts. Your channel has a lot of great content, so guys, go check out Merc at Merc with the movies. And thanks for joining us again on episode 146. Make sure you guys follow at Back to the Blockbuster wherever you guys get your podcasts or where you're on social media. You can find us there and tell your friends about our sort of content. All your friends that love movies can listen to us every week on Thursdays. And stay tuned as we got another episode coming out this week where we discuss physical media. So you guys can find that, again, wherever you guys get your podcasts. And I've been Jackson. This has been Gaius and Merc. Thanks a lot, guys, for joining. And you take care of yourselves. We'll see you next week.
Peace.
Jesus Christ.